Hello traders, this is Alex with the StockMatrix program. We're going to do a review today. Well, actually tomorrow is the solar eclipse, and if you've been following my stuff, you know it's very important to me. I base a lot of stuff, just as WD Gann did, off the solar eclipse. You know, the cycles from and to the solar eclipse are quite important. Let's go to the X account, kind of my standard intro here. CBOTman33 is my handle, and this is where I post the trades. And I have some commodity stuff from my old roots, but here is the last update that I put out there, so you can go back and review, you know, a few charts maybe. You know, this is, again, just trying to fill space, but it does give you a different view, some technicals that maybe you didn't look at. You know, super cycle. This is the corn super cycle. Anyway, it's all important to me. My 4 decades of trading, putting into a small little contained space. All right, let's move on to the bar chart portfolio page. This kind of gives us where we're at, and you can see we're at actually around 57,000 if we got out of everything on Friday on the close. Again, January 6th was our start date. Let me see. I wonder if January 6th will end on the weekday, but I'm going to end it on January 6, 2026, so it'll be 1 year anniversary coming up in January. These are our closed out positions around 36. We put a fictitious starting amount of 150. We've had 116, again, I put $1 per trade, right? So we had 116 trades, of which 17 we have on current. So around 100 trades that we've taken off. This beginning, we kind of fell into a low, and we had a bear and then a bull, kind of a flip around, right? So it gives you a good guide, you know, from a bear to the bull. We buy puts, we buy calls, right? So we play the market on the long side or the short side, or buying and selling, right? So depending on your definition, you can see we have a few puts on, but most of them are all calls. The last few that we flipped kind of pushed it over the top. Again, we rolled once on some of these, so this is our second tranche on some of them, like Google. This is our second tranche. The first tranche got, you know, August calls got taken off, and we took profits. Again, we'll follow the trend until it bucks us off. That's kind of the nature of a trend following system, right? Versus a day trading system where you're in and out every day. You might only have one trade if it's a big long term. Well, you know, in a year you'll have, right, 4, because we're doing 90 to 100 days out into the future. So you're going to have at least 4 trades if the trend is a bull or if the trend is a yearly bear. So that's just how we do it. That's how I think you make money long term. We don't care which direction the market goes. All right, let's move now to the matrix page. Let's go to the StockMatrix statistical page. You can see we do have some annuals that came in or coming in over the weekend. Again, solar eclipse is on a Sunday. So it kind of, you know, unfortunately falls on a weekend. But you can see Apple has a couple on the solar. Tesla has one on the solar, and Adobe has one on the solar. Cintas has 2 on the solar. So pretty important as it stands. I forgot to mark any 45s here. Maybe there isn't none. Well, here's one. IBM will be 89 on Monday. Anyway, you can look through those and see if there's any 45s. Let's move now to the trade sheet. You can see we have 11 long-term up, and we have 4 long-term down. So again, we're net 11, or no, net 9 long-term. So that's okay. You can see here that, again, this is the stock side, right? The share side. So I mean, I got to do that to know where to do the options. We're doing one option only, which is 100 shares, right? One call or one put equals 100 shares of whatever stock you're looking at. The index did break a 0.5 mil. So again, you can see over here a new record high. We've been we creep. Again, I call this a market creep, right? These bulls that creep like this as an index, right, which is a total of all these, the sum of all its parts, the index of the stock matrix, or the S&P or the Dow, right? That's its own index of whatever select stocks they have. But you can see we keep creeping out new highs. Bigger day though to Friday, so it'll be interesting to see how we follow through with the solar coming up. Here's NVIDIA. You can see that now I left this on here because I want to show you the importance of this next solar eclipse. Now we're on this one, right, September 21st at 1943 minutes. So that one, but you can see normal from solar to solar is this long. But you can see not only we have a shortened solar eclipse, but it also what I call flipped, right? The lunar here was before the solar. Well, now the solar is before the lunar. But it also did it on a shortened period, a full moon period. So basically we're 1 month shorter. So this dividing in half is a lot less. It's going to be interesting, right? That, I mean, when I look at this, you know, once in a blue moon kind of thing, right? You know, every once in a while, 2.5 years or whatever the blue moon is. It's kind of why the blue moon happens, right? Because again, you get these short and highlighted periods, but it just happens to also be on a flip when we're flipping positions of the eclipses. So again, this is a real short one, so it'll be definitely powerful. Should definitely create some activity in the market. History, I know more commodity history than I do stock history, unfortunately, but so I'll be learning what the stock market does in this period. I should go back and look on the other ones, but that takes a lot of time. But you can see just a dud. It ain't breaking. Again, a creeper. Nvidia closed. Now we're short this one and we're losing, and our stops are adjusted now to the basically the highs, which I don't like. But again, the system don't care what I like or don't like. So you can see now that let me get this position back. I wanted to show you that on the first one because that's how important this whole year is, right? So from September 21st to February 17th is going to be an interesting period in the markets. Let me get it back up here, something similar. Okay, so yeah, really interesting, right? This flattened out period didn't. Now the correction came in a time, right? We had an up. This was our up, and then it didn't have any correction in price, but it did have a correction in time, which is the most important. So I don't think it needs to go down anymore. That's plenty long time. Now if it does, it's a negative. But I think that low that we had is all you got. I think if we pop a new high, if we gap it in particular, I think that'll be bullish the market. Let's go to Meta. You can see that again, just a creeper. Again, there's not much to say. This one had a little more of a price break. It did hit some support. We did get long here on the 15th. So today is the 20th Saturday, by the way, 2025. If you look at it from the past, here is Coke. Again, kind of a bearish deal. Finally, but it hasn't made a new low yet, right? So just a dud. I mean, a system like mine is going to be a loser. It's got to follow the trend. Well, the trend is sideways. It does not make any money in that kind of environment. Here's Google. You can see it's off the freaking chart. One of the true bulls that we have, and it's definitely a power driver. So this action, again, the problem again though is that there's no foundation on this house. The solar eclipse is way down here, and here's your new solar eclipse way up here. So you can see that this thing is going to be a rocket ship, or is a rocket ship. We did have a gap, another gap. Again, don't buy Google's AI. I mean, they suck. They can't even project their own price. God, I hate that. That's my bitch of the year. AI is so stupid. People think it's like gospel, and they're programming. People are going to get so hosed if they use AI for trading. All right, here's so anyway, we're up here, new highs. The stop is way the hell down here. Now, next moon period, we'll at least get to pump it up quite a bit. So we'll see. I mean, if we get stopped out, that'll be pretty disappointing way down there. Hopefully it has a period of rest, right, where sideways action, and then we can get our stops moved up to an appropriate level and really lock in a massive profit. I mean, we've been basically long since July 11th. Now we've rolled that, I think. And we're long from on the stock side from 181.71. So pretty bully. Here's the Microsoft. Again, it was a bull, turned into actually a pretty good dip, a bigger correction than I would assume for. Now again, that's a good thing, right? If you're wanting to buy a dip, that gave you an opportunity. Solar eclipse is now here, definitely a lot higher than the previous solar eclipse, which was way the hell down there. So not bearish in any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, now this stop, that's a pretty big risk, I think. With a whole range, so we won't move that again for quite a few months or moon periods. Here's Amazon, kind of a little chopper. I'm very, very surprised we haven't made a new high. Again, which concerns a guy if you're loaded up to the moon. If that was the case, I would probably be buying a few puts in Amazon because that doesn't make sense to me that that's not in new highs. Now you can see we came into the cardinal cross from this old high and the old low. So that was this period of time right in here, right? So I guess that stops in a good spot, but potential high here. Just to not saying I don't know. My guess is it looks a little suspect. Well, we haven't. This whole period should have been pushing new highs, should have been up here. So now, of course, knowing how AI is so stupid, we'll probably gap up here and that'll be it. So you gotta be a little careful of gaps on these markets. Now, if it does gap, I might be bailing on that actually if you were long a lot or needed to lighten up. Now here's Apple, again a creeper, right? It was a dud for quite a while. Apple's fully loaded with everybody, so it's hard for me to just get excited. But the system don't care what I think, right? So it just makes money, right? That's why. Yeah, it does what it does, and why you always should trade a system. Even if let's say you have 100 grand, 50 grand should be in a system, and then you can use your other talent. And now if you lose money year over year, then quit your trade and then use a system for Christ's sakes. Stops got moved over in time, nothing in price. Tesla's there. We did have a little gap up against this kind of 1-to-1 from the lows. So squaring out of time, as Gann would say. Now we did have, again, squaring out of time and price since we're on the solar. 270 degrees over from that high was the previous week. So pretty close. Makes sense to be used off a lot of caution there, being, don't be buying up here. Here's Lynn. Just a chopper. Again, just like Amazon, I'm surprised it hasn't made a new high. Right. This whole time it couldn't go up here. Take that out. Something's fishy. So use a little caution there. It's a slopper. I don't think we'll, unless it starts trending here quickly, we're going to probably be a net loser on Lynn by the end of the year. Here's ED, kind of a good bear trend. Again, made its highs when all the big dogs were making their lows in April. So a counter trender, right? People dumped their money in Edison because back in here, because the other markets were bear trending. So it makes sense that we're making new lows down here because we're making new highs on my index. So S&P, the Dow, and all the others are making highs as well. So makes sense that this opposite one is making new lows. And I'm surprised we haven't made a new low down here yet. So makes me kind of bullish the other ones. Here's Adobe, kind of a potential long-term bottom. We proved a double bottom. Has not made a new low. The system did get long right in here. Stops are now here, so pretty simple trade. I don't like the long-term parallelness of this market. Now we did kind of break out of that. So if you're a total bass bear, you got to have a little warning sign. Let's say you're bearish fundamentals. You got to be a little careful with this pattern because that's a long-term at the house with a good foundation. Adobe is one of the old companies. They're $400 freaking for Christ's sake. So they know how to promote their business. They must have good salespeople. Here's IBM, kind of their trade. We're into that gap, kind of important little area here, I think. The solar eclipse is definitely higher than the previous solar, right? So the trend is up from eclipse to eclipse, which again, it breaks down the year into half. So your biannual chart is bullish, if that makes any sense. Here is, we did hit support down here against this old low 1-to-1 trend line coming up. And of course it squares out from the high right here. This is the squaring of the range from the low to the high. So you got to use awfully extreme caution on IBM. This was a bearish gap, no doubt about it. And since it followed through bearish, you got to assume the swing traders are licking their chops. Bearish swing traders are licking their chops on this back rally. 90 degrees over on the solar eclipse, squaring out of time and price. Here is Bank of America, kind of up there, creeping new highs. Pretty slow, but it's a freaking electricity company that never loses money, because if they do, they just charge more the next month. So it's a good investment, I think. I don't know what the dividends are, but hopefully they're paying out some good dividends. Stops got moved up a tick. Pretty easy trade, right? So no big whoop there. Pretty logical. We did close on our absolute high, which always gives me pause and concern. Here is Procter & Gamble, closed on its absolute low. Stops are right underneath there. So gap down, which shouldn't happen in Procter & Gamble. They have so many products, I can't imagine they would gap that big, but our stops are right underneath there. So we're going to lose money if we get stopped out there. JP Morgan, the Jamie, the Diamond. Here is the stops are here. Again, I always add an extra click when it's an outside period. That's why it's not underneath here. That's just my choice. Because again, to me, this outside period is sideways. So I don't want to get it too close to the chop. Just something stupid. I probably didn't matter much, but that's why it's there. Anyway, Coinbase, again, the solar eclipse was higher than the previous solar eclipse. So quite a bit. Here's the other one too. So we're definitely trending up, and I expect it to be, either some type of coagulation. Now again, we were bullish, turned into a little bear, got about halfway back into the gap. Again, their AI does not work. They should fire that AI if you get a gap like this during the week, for Christ's sakes. Here's Cintas. Here's, kind of actually a bull that turned into bear. We're on this previous solar eclipses, on this solar eclipse, right? So definitely a worthy opponent to watch. Again, I've mentioned that before on previous videos. Once you got down here, you got to monitor this again, if you're buying a dip, right? Now, again, if you're bearish, you're going freaking A. Easy, just keep, follow the stops down. But if you're a perpetual bull and buying dips only mode, definitely on the radar to buy the dips. Now, I don't know if you just buy it. Just, I don't like buying just because. I like to make sure the trend changes, me personally. Okay, now let's set up the daily charts. Okay, here's NVIDIA. You can see that we're kind of went up to the back of the 1-to-1. Now, again, this is a 1-to-1 trend line. versus a 1-to-1 of the slope. Again, I mentioned this in the previous video, but basically it's squaring of the low in hundredths, right? So anyway, that's some of these lines that you see. If I don't mention it, it's either a mathematical or a squaring of the slope. Both are important. You can see we hit both on the backside. That's time and price, but it's not bearish. Again, this sideways action. The lunar was a low. The solar could be a high, I guess. This could be a broad top in NVIDIA. Again, everybody's fully loaded NVIDIA, so it's not like an emerging market where you get these new trends develop. The support's down here at these old lows, or excuse me, old highs, which become old lows. So if I had a gun to my head, I wouldn't be a buyer. If you're dip trading, right, long-term, always buying trading, I would be more of interested in around 155 to 145. Here is Meta, kind of a potential top as well with the solar now in place. An outside day down, so it made new highs, closed lower. Just kind of there, I guess. Just an interesting trade. I mean, this gap up and no really follow through, just sideways action. Again, their AI is broken. Here's Coke, actually trying to turn into a little bear, kind of a double bottom against the support. Again, the 7ths were important, right? So the 7th here was this lunar eclipse in this, again, area. Now, again, I always mark these on the, once I know the direction, I put it on the opposite side. These highs now become important to me, as does this high become important. So as a trader, not on my platform, right, but on your other on your other stocks that you trade, these little annuals become important to me. So if the market gets above there, I'll be more excited to buy. Right now, I couldn't buy Coke, unless you're a bottom pick system. But I just don't make sense to me to be a buyer. Now, we did have a bull trap here, and this is a small trap here. So that was the only thing that would get me thinking of maybe buying a call or something there, if you're a bottom picker. Here's Google again. The bull, kind of just a dud and nothingness. It's turned into a slow creep, but we did get faster on the gap, and then another gap because their AIs don't freaking work. And but here we are. We're up against this parallel channel on the lows. Let me see if this is. That is a 1-to-1, $1 over for one bar or one calendar or one market day up, right? So that is a 1-to-1 channel, pretty important on its own merits. Here's Microsoft, broke its channel, that sloping kind of declining channel, 33 days over from the high. So again, was this a little low? Solar Eclipse came in, looks pretty friendly to me. This was all the break we got, looks like. Again, pretty simple trade. If you do buy Microsoft, you definitely got to get out if it makes a new low here. Don't be too brave. Let somebody else do the brave trading. You just do the smart trading. Here's kind of another chopper, one that surprises me. We haven't made a new high. Solar Eclipse is right in here, so maybe this is the pentacle, right? The point, in the triangle, there always the time comes to a point. Maybe this is it with the solar. Now we can see we have a bunch of angles in here in the future, so not one that should run away from you. So if you feel like you missed it, just wait another week or two, and you'll probably get some more dips. Here's Apple again, the solar. We had also some annulars come in. The chart's turning into like, which one was it? Hang on. Which one was that had a similar deal? It was Google. Turned into a slow trade, kind of rounded the corner, got faster. Now it's really picking up the pace, right? So kind of similar on Apple. It's just got that slow turning the corner, and then at some point we'll get faster. Maybe we're into that point. So a gap up on Apple on Monday would be kind of interesting if it holds it, right? Here's Tesla. Again, kind of one that still hasn't made a new high either, but it sure doesn't look bearish. It isn't trading like it's overvalued, right? It's trading almost like it's undervalued. Here's Lynn, kind of a chopper. Again, been a while since we made a new high there as well. So, October 17th. So in about a month, we'll hit its annual. So if it hasn't made a new high by then, I mean, geez, I talk about a slow trade. Here's ED. Yeah, especially when all the other stuff's moving, right? And if you're in Lynn, it's just a dud. It sucks ass. I'm sorry. I hate being in slow markets. I mean, I've traded selling calls and selling puts in those slow chopper commodity markets for a long stretch because that's all there was to do. It's just no fun. It's no fun. You make money, but it's just no fun. Again, here's 33 off the highs coming in next week. Solar potential low, right? You can see all these annuals, all this stuff that came in was this high right here, and it closed crappy to kind of confirm it with follow through, and then made the low. So makes sense that this is, well, we'll give it to her. Definitely, if you're wanting to be a bull, I wouldn't be too excited to buy it until we get above $99 or something. If you're buying a dip, it's hard. It's making new lows every week. Again, here's Adobe. kind of the bear of the bears, but recently has proven that maybe it's a low, right? Now, again, lows take a long time. You get plenty of opportunities. Usually they don't turn into bulls right away, fast bull, very, very seldom. Now, V markets are a little different, right? But this is a broader bottom, very old company, trading a high value. I don't know. Again, this outside period, you can see we got all kinds of crap. I haven't flipped everything around because I'm not confirmed of the direction yet. Again, another kind of closed crappy deal, covered its gap. Solar Eclipse right in here with 2011. So I don't know. I guess I'm going to wait. But I like the system stop down in here. Makes sense. Here's IBM again, one of those that are. I don't understand this gap. I don't know what the crookedness of all that. Now we're back, in it. What the heck? IBM's supposed to have one of the best AI platforms out there. It sucks. Don't freaking use it. They can't predict their own stock price. Don't use any AI that can't predict its own stock price. It doesn't make sense. It's the easiest thing. You should know exactly all the fundamentals. You should know exactly all the seasonal. You should know exactly how many people are buying or in short or long your stock and the squeezes. The smart AI would have all that calculated. I wish I could program it myself. I'd put all these annuals in there. I could probably make a pretty damn good platform. It definitely wouldn't have any gaps like this if the AI was in control of the system. Here's BK. Again, we're void of any annuals. These are monthly stuff. Pretty important in its own, right? But Solar Eclipse is so far the high, again, obviously because of the high of its life. Here's Procter & Gamble. Man, it had a good day, and then it gapped down. What the? Again, I guess the area is broken. Procter & Gamble has a lot of issues with some of their products, hence the bear decline, right? But they got so many products that they're kind of invincible in a sense of any big bear market moves. But they definitely get in this funk chop. Definitely a good trading market. If I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't put Procter & Gamble in a long-term trading system platform. But again, it's a sum of all the parts, right? So, but you can see we got some stuff here. So we'll see 1998 high here and a 2017 annual here. So pretty interesting trade. It looks like it's going to gap lower Monday. It should gap lower, right? This action would assume that it's going to go down and test the lows out, actually. JP Morgan, again, just a creeper. You can see it's back, at least on the speed line. I want to see what this is. That's a 1-to-1. So $1 up for 1 bar over, right? So it's a 1-to-1 speed line, mathematical. You can see we're above it, on it, below it. Now we're back to it, squaring time and price every time you hit it. So average speed of $1 per day. I guess that's not terrible. To me, though, there's a lot of other bulls out there that are going much faster than that. But it's a pretty steady eddy. It doesn't have any big gaps, which I like, obviously, since I'm bitching about the AI system. An outside day period here, closing on its high. Would assume a gap up, but again, as you know, I believe these outside periods are sideways in nature. I would assume it could break back a little bit, have a little trade maybe like this, a couple weird day and a half, 2-day break. Makes some sense to me off of the outside day. Now a gap up could, definitely would get me excited. Here's Coinbase up against the resistance, which is a fraction of a slope, right? So anyway, we're up against resistance. This is a fraction of the slope at the bottom as well. You can see we're pinching it out mathematically right in here, hence the middle of the sideways action. So all that makes sense, and it should struggle here as well, since this mathematically proved out this point. This will be well, you can see it was important here with all the stuff. It's good trading. The numbers tend to work on Coinbase. I used it to follow Bitcoin. It kind of does, but kind of doesn't. I just couldn't find any options to trade Bitcoin on without having to open up a stupid system somewhere else and have too many. That's too complicated. I want it all in that same options that you trade with on the knife or whatever, right? Simple platforms, Scottrade or whatever. Here is Cintas. Definitely turned into a bear. We're basically on the previous solar eclipses, and of course this is the solar eclipse. So time and price for sure. Let's get rid of this one. I don't need it. You can see that again, Cintas, a very old company, definitely a BlackRock favorite. They propped that son buck up. They baited everybody into this big pop here, and then that was the split. Was right in here, and they split. Markets never break on a split. Kaboom! They dropped 20%, screwed everyone. So this break right here was definitely a cheater break. And then we went and made new highs. Took that long, right? So again, it's a BlackRock protected company, which you understand what that means, right? They're wanting this to break. So the logic to me, based on this, unless this stops here on this solar, is that more than likely we're going to creep lower, maybe make new lows. They're wanting to add to a bigger break. They already had a 20%er to add to, and they went up and popped new highs. So again, more than likely they're trading it. BlackRock and all the big dogs that control, I think will want a bigger dip on Cintas. Maybe Again, makes sense. We'll challenge this 20 percentile break here. All right, let's go to S&P. You can see we had a little, again, just a creeper. I've been mentioning these creepers aren't bearish. They tend, here's the Dow, they tend to turn into dynamic bulls with some flaming top, wild action kind of thing. Here's the NASDAQ. Again, just creeping new highs. Lunar eclipse is here, solar eclipse is here. Gave a good trade range. Here's the Q. Again, the channel has been proven to be worthy, and this channel, this old channel, dang it, this old channel, which was this one, is still up here in the hunt. So I would assume that's the next target. Stay within both channels. Again, you can see the opportunity there on the Q. Again, to me, all these people trade a lot of fancy shit, but if you'd have just bought a dip in the Q and that was your trading, now you'd be done. You make X amount. Now again, some of these have made 30%, right? The Q options are very cheap. Let me hang on a second. I'm going to take a look. Okay, I'm in bar chart again. Let's pull up the Q, and then once you do, this is kind of the Greeks, right? It tells you everything you need to know. But then you click on option prices. Let's go out list a month and see. This October 17th, so that'd be a month out. And at the money, in the money is around 1,100 bucks. So not terrible. Let's go out our time zone that we use, which is 90 days, which will be December at least. December 19th will be 90 days on the button. So we'd be doing, I always go one strike in the money. We're at 5, it shows it right here. We're at 599.35. So I'd use a 95. That'd be 2,800 to buy one QQQ call. Now, if you got a crap load of stocks unprotected, maybe buying a put might make sense to you, right? $6 put, which is in the money, $5. That protects 100 shares. That's around $2,000 for 90 days protection. Might make sense for some as well. Again, I'm not advocating. I'm just taking a look along with you. I have traded QQ options weeklies. My other stuff that I use. So they definitely work. I mean, there's no question about it. Here's a weekly that goes off in 2 days, which must be a Monday, September 22nd. Yeah, that's a Monday option. That's weird. Anyway, you can trade for Monday action for 100 bucks or 200. Again, they have dollar increments, for Christ's sake. Interesting. Anyway, I'm rambling. Everybody have a safe solar eclipse weekend, and use caution. At least Monday, Tuesday, if not even out to Wednesday. Assume a weirdness in these eclipses, both lunar and solar, both. Especially this from now until the next one, right? We're going to have a shortened solar eclipse period, so the action is going to get quite wild, I believe. Everyone have a great weekend. Bye.